With everyone's permission, this session is being recorded. Let me know if anyone has any concerns with that. All right. Thank you very much for joining our today's session. We will be talking about agile transformation. How do we initiate, or what are the challenges? What are the things that we consider when we talk about initiating agile transformation? I'll try and keep it within 45 minutes and give you guys another 15 minutes to ask questions. Although I'd like the session to be interactive. Um, if you have any questions, if you would like to ask anything, please go ahead, jump in, ask me questions. I don't lose train of thought. So if you have any question, if there is anything I can explain about, let me know and I'll do my best to cover that. Um, I do see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 attendees right now. So we will start. Um, my name is Humayun Zameer. I'm Enterprise Agile Consultant for IBC. Um, for me to understand the what level of presentation should I go into, the depth I should go into. If we scale agile knowledge from 1 to 5, 1 being least and 5 being highest, can you guys just type in a number on the chat so I can gauge my audience, and I'll try and keep the level of details accordingly. All right. Okay. Okay. All right, so most of the participants understand Agile, and I'm assuming that you guys have some experience with Agile. So Agile as a framework, let's quickly talk about scaled Agile. So when we talk about SAFe, scaled Agile framework for enterprises, um, how many of you, so now let's talk about SAFe specifically, again with the rating from 1 being lowest and 5 being highest. How do you rate your knowledge about SAFe? Uh, okay, great. Um, all right, so uh, that's a very good level of knowledge most of our attendees have. Uh, let's quickly just type in what kind of roles do you hold in your um, agile framework in your teams. So not your titles exactly, but roles that you cover. Uh, all right, this is wonderful. So I'm hoping that through this session, uh, I will be able to learn from you guys as well. As I said, please do keep this webinar interactive. if you have any questions. I won't be able to monitor the chat throughout. I'll try and do that. But in case if you have any question, just go off mute and ask me the question. So without further ado, I so I've been an SPC for a while. I have handled many uh, transformations for different organizations. I have done a lot of trainings as well. Um, and I can talk about my profile continuously, but let's move on to the topic that we are here for. So some of the key points that we'll be covering today, um, the role of change leaders in paving the way. Uh, Agile transformation depends on how it is led. The role of change leaders is very important. Uh, the leaders play an essential role in making sure that the policies, values, principles are implemented, and we are going to talk about these more throughout this webinar. I have some slides covering that. Um, Alignment of our strategies with the operational work, how the people, how the team is viewing the work, uh, how do we actively engage our team members throughout the transformation process, uh, making sure that they feel valued and the value delivery that they are delivering, the value that they are delivering is aligned with the strategy of the organization and it is transparent to them. So let's first go on to our big picture. And we have different safe configuration from full all the way to essential. And even if I look at the essential one, which is the smallest configuration, you would see lean agile leadership is one of the competencies here, which is extremely important. If we go into the details of the lean agile leadership, and most of my talk today is going to be uh, uh, based on the lean agile leadership, how they play their role in the transformation. Um, do I hear a question? All right. So the roles and responsibilities of the lean agile leader, the first thing is that they encourage the change. They are the ones, those who drive the transformation. It is very important that the change is led by the change leaders, and change leaders are placed in the key roles for the transformation. With them not being able to influence the decision, it'll be very difficult for the transformation to happen. Um, Leaders lead by examples on all levels on the team, be it strategic level, starting from the portfolio, all the way to where the actual work is happening, where the agile team is. They need to lead by example, and I'll be covering some slides on that as well. Continuous learning is very important, and leaders understand that the growth of the organization and their growth is when they foster growth for the individuals, help build development plans, develop their team members. But not only that, they also understand that they have to embrace the continuous learning. They encourage lifelong learning. And that is very important for leaders to understand that without learning, this transformation, this journey wouldn't work. The habits that we need to adopt for a good transformation. It is extremely important that learning is part of that habit. Demonstration and embracing of principles and core value, as I was mentioning earlier, that is very important for the role of the leaders as well. A lot of organizations, uh, the leaders try and make all the decisions by themselves, which generally does not span out very well. It is important that the decisions are decentralized and the decisions are made by the people those who are closest to the work. So that is another responsibility of the lean agile leaders, to make sure that they are empowering the team to make decisions wherever they can. Now, there are certain decisions where leadership needs to make a decision centrally, obviously with the help of the whole team and the organization, and they make a informed decision. For example, organization moving into a cloud platform, they wouldn't let each team decide what cloud platform they would be on. So someone is on Azure, or someone is on Google, or is on AWS. That wouldn't work. So that is a decision where uh, you need to have centralized decision, but a lot of other things which can be decentralized, working on an architectural runway, how a particular API is going to be consumed. Those decisions might be best that are left with the team or the team members. Those are closer to it, the architectural team. It is very important that the team members feel engaged. They are able to see how the strategy of the organization is aligned with the vision and mission of the organization. Um, Leaders inspire, motivate their team members. They remove the impediments that they have. The intrinsic motivation is very important, where leaders create a safe environment where the team members, where your people are able to see that their creativity is valued, and they are able to find time to be creative. They are able to better use their innovative skills, and they have a purpose. We'll expand on these points again in next few slides. But before we start transformation, one very important thing that we need to understand, that when we get onto this journey has a significant impact if it is not completed. So it's very important that we are ready to embark on this journey. We should not go half-hearted. Agile transformation is challenging. It requires individuals to step out of their comfort zone. It requires change, and change triggers reluctance. It results negative response. That negative response is generally the result of an unsafe environment. Leaders need to create an environment where the teams feel safe. And this is very important. If you have attended um, Scaled Agile trainings, you would see in all of the trainings, we emphasize on how important it is to create a safe environment. When the team feels that they have a secure atmosphere, they have a safe environment, the transformation journey becomes much simpler. Any questions so far?
Hi, this is Kumar.
Hey, Kumar.
Hi. This is uh, perfectly okay for transformation efforts, but I want to be understand like how we can operationalize this transformation. When I say operationalize, I want to know if a enterprise, what are the steps we have to take in order to get into the the end state, the agile. So that's more of tactical instead of looking at more of a strategic. So if
So
that makes
let
sense.
me go through the session, and you can message me, and we
Okay,
can probably try and have a conversation. Let's see how much of your questions are covered in the presentation today. And if we have more questions, and I'm sure there will be, we can connect offline, or if we have some time towards the end of the session, we'll try and cover those questions. Does that agreement work out, Kumar?
sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Initiating the transformation, let's talk about the considerations for this journey. The first thing that comes in our mind before you start any transformation, we have to look at the values, principles, and practices that uh, we will be working towards. Practice what you preach. That is the most important message for the leaders. Leaders should be an example of the principles and the values that they are trying to bring into their team. They need to enact that transformation themselves. They need to have those values if they are trying to promote a certain attitude that should be done at the leadership level first. Sorry, that's my uh, Alexa. Um, Leaders should be able to adapt those changes before they enforce that to the team. Um, they should continuously look at the principles and those the decisions that they are making. They should be based on the principles and the values that agile or safe, whichever um, framework that you are implementing. Specifically talking about SAFE, we have 10 principles that are advised throughout the framework. Leadership should look at how they prioritize those principles and practices. Appointing change leaders, those who are able to help in those principles, help implement those principles and practices. A lot of times it is seen that the transformation tries to adjust the principles and the values based on the culture of the organization, which a lot of time creates anti-pattern. They look at implementing selective ceremonies. They do not implement the principles and practices the way they are advised by the framework, and that does not help the transformation. It creates unfavorable patterns. It does not deliver the actual value. It is very important that the leaders emphasize the importance of maintaining the foundational principles and values of scaled agile.
Humayun, can you
Right?
hear me?
Yes, I can
Sorry,
hear you.
I joined a little late and I'm not sure your policy about Q&As. Are you taking Q&As at the end of the seminar or on the fly?
We will have a Q&A at the end of the seminar, but if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer that. Do you have a
Yeah,
quick question that I can help you
I
address?
mean, this slide is of very importance to me actually.
Mhm.
Values, principles, and practices, and what they call, following the rules by book is like the key principle. Like as you mentioned, like we have to make sure that all of the principles have to be implemented. If I heard it right, is that right? But in any practical situation, I do not think like all of the core principles can be adopted, so correct
So
me if I'm wrong.
it's very, so let me answer it this way. You are going through a transformation journey. Everything needs to be implemented in steps. We need to look at what is the current culture of the organization. We are not at, we have a North Star. We need to see how do we get to implementing the principles and practices and the values those are defined by SAFe. You will not be able to implement it from day one. It requires time, and that is your transformation journey. So it's very important that we consider this as a journey.
See,
So
how do you
it
then
takes time.
decide? Sorry. Then how do you decide that which are out of all the values, principles, practices, pillars? Like there are like so many foundational values, out of which among safe, like you consider as the top ones to begin the transformation, because this is a relevant question because we are talking about starting an agile transformation journey, right?
That is definitely a very relevant question. So let me address it that way, that you need to have your change leaders, those who evaluate what principles and practices needs to be looked at. So any organization that is moving into agile transformation, they already have processes and procedures. When you move into transformation, you don't go in and try and break everything and change everything. It is going to disrupt the current value delivery. The organization that you work with and is moving into an agile transformation, you cannot go break all the rules and put in new principles. It'll be too much for the team to adjust to. It goes in slowly. That's why we call it a transformation journey. So your coach, your consultant will evaluate your current state and they'll look at your future state. And those future states, then we'll create a step-by-step journey how it is done. So we look at what is the tipping point, how do we train the leaders first, what are the most important areas which requires transformation, where we have bottlenecks, where we have gaps, and we start bringing in changes in those areas first, and then we move on to the other areas. So looking at how do we improve the flow would probably be a important principle first. And we start looking at improving your delivery flow.
So
Does that
who
make
at this,
sense?
right, so who in the organization at a like highest level, I would say, is going to make this decision about the agile transformation?
Your agile coach, your enterprise coach is going to work with the leadership team, um, where they will advise what should be the next step.
Okay, thank you.
And that is where I was saying it's extremely important that lean agile leadership is prioritized and change leaders are appointed. Change leaders need to be appointed at the right places so they are able to make informed decisions.
So the change leaders are the department leadership, or it's an agile center of excellence?
So in scaled agile, we try and stay a very flat structure. Of course, the hierarchical structure is required for the principles and the discipline of the organization, but mostly you would see it as a very flat structure. Everyone works with each other very closely. So when we talk about change leaders, these are the members, those who have the knowledge and principles, a knowledge of the principles and the practices and the values that scaled agile promotes, and they are able to make the decisions, uh, consulting with the team. They are able to make those decisions and help implement those in the organization. So these are the change leaders. At some point, you need coaching everywhere, and Scrum Masters are, if you see version 6.0, Scrum Master has the title of team coach as well. So they are very important uh, to help bring in this transformation as well.
Humayun,
Mhm.
the questions, they're really important, and I have questions too. But I'm also interested in your presentation, and we're already at halftime.
Yeah,
So I'm going to request all the others. Perhaps you could put your questions in the chat, and then Humayun, if you could reserve some time to address the questions, because I don't know how long your
we can.
presentation
No,
is.
I completely agree with you. I do want to I do appreciate your comment on this, and I do want to move on to the next few slides that we have. But I because this is very important that we are talking about transformation, and this is where it all
Mhm,
starts from. So I
mhm,
wanted to cover the base properly, and then we can move on to the next slide.
mhm.
Thank you very much for that guidance, and I respect your point. So I'll move on to the next slide, and then there are a few things that we'll cover throughout. Um, Improvement with excellence. This is very important. Uh, how many of you know about LACE? So LACE, Lean Agile Community of Excellence, is a very important step towards a successful agile transformation. This is a team created of experts that contributes into establishing continuous learning culture. It actually helps, a lot of transformation leaders are part of the LACE team, and there is a complete write-up on this, how it is modeled. Uh, there are different ways of implementing it depending how your organization works. You might have a LACE team which is centralized. You might have a LACE team that is decentralized, or hub and spoke, where the central team is the one which provides guidance to the local teams. And again, this is something where the change leaders are going to advise what would be the best model of implementing LACE in the organization. And you would see that it works like how a lot of agile teams works. They have their own Kanban board and they work through it. What are the different steps that are used to facilitate this overall transformation? It's very important that we look at transformation holistically. Uh, Many organizations try and empower the teams to see how do they want to transform. Some of the teams go in a hybrid mode. Some of the teams implement full-fledged SAFe. They run PI planning. They do everything what SAFe suggests. Some teams do selective ceremonies. Some teams take baby steps. But the problem there is when it comes to inter-team dependencies, it starts falling apart, and the transformation is not able to provide the result that that is expected from the transformation. So it is very important that the transformation is looked at holistically. It is aligned throughout the organization. First of all, there has to be a common cadence. You are implementing um, uh, iteration start and end time should be common throughout the train. If you have multiple agile release trains, you are working on a solution train, your PI time box should be same as well. The start of the PI, end of the PI should be same for all the agile trains as well. There should be ceremonies, there should be cadence for the ceremonies as well. So in case if you need uh, cross-team collaboration, you know how to reach out to a particular team. As a scrum master, as product owners, as product managers, you know what is the value of attending other teams' iteration reviews or other train system demos in order for you to address the dependencies. And that cannot work without holistic transformation, without having a proper cadence. The leadership goes beyond sponsorship. They need to participate. They need to be actively engaged for the transformation. It is extremely important that the strategies are transparent to the team. The team needs to understand how do these strategies align with the vision and mission of the enterprise. They will be able to be more engaged. They will be able to contribute once they understand their purpose. It's very important that the team members feel valued whenever they uh, add a value to the business. They are able to see how that value has created a positive impact, or God forbid, a negative impact, and how has that contributed into the vision and mission of the organization. Uh, Many teams, many organizations implement transparency processes, protocols through all hands company meetings as well through regular staff meetings. They change meetings into more informational, educational gatherings, and that helps out the overall team with the transparency. Transparency also is important when we pivot from a particular strategy. If we are moving from one strategy to the other, this is very important that when we are talking about how do we pivot, how the message is delivered to the team, and we should uh, consider, the leadership should consider how is that information communicated. Uh, it is all normal, it is all but natural that the organizations may have to pivot from a specific strategy based on changing market conditions, change on economic conditions, looking at competition that they have. But it is very important that it is clear to the team the reason why we pivoted and what is the learning from the experience uh, from the reason of pivoting, or what have we learned from the overall experience. This is again part of the growth mindset that we look at learnings from every change that we bring in, even if it is failure. It is okay, because as long as you have learned a lesson from it, you will be able to improve in the next iteration. Engagement from the team is extremely important. You have to, as a leader, as the coach, as part of the change leadership team, you need to make sure that your team members, your people are happy. Your organization is as good as your team. The most important asset in your organization is your people. You have to make sure that they are happy. They are um, able to link themselves with the vision and the mission of the organization. They are able to see how do they contribute into the strategy. You are required, or it's very important for leaders to create learning opportunities uh, in the path of agile roles. So a lot of times you would see business analysts are moving to product owner roles, or they're moving into scrum master roles. Organizations need to help generate those opportunities, provide them those trainings, give them the opportunity to see how they can grow within the organization, provide them autonomy. It's very important. Safe space. I've been talking about a safe environment. When the team members feel they are safe, their opinions are valued, they are able to say what they think. They are respected. They are able to boldly make comments. They will be more engaged. Um, Big difference between managing business with IQ and then EQ. EQ is very important. IQ being the IQ being the logic, and the ability to use logic to solve problems. EQ, the emotional quotient, uh, the ability to recognize and use emotions to guide the decisions that you are making. So it's very important that we bring in EQ, emotional quotient, uh, between the team, create emotional link between the teams and help them establish that rapport, um, create educational gatherings, and try and see where the team is overlooking the details, where is it that you can provide more guidance so they are able to um, provide more, better value, and the principles and the values set by the organizations are followed through. What can hurt the transformation? Uh, it is very important that we monitor these things as well. One thing which is very important is communication and the clarity for the team. The executives hold positions for decision making. It is important for the leadership to understand they should acknowledge that the decisions that they make impacts the people, those who are doing the work. It is very important that leaders show the value uh, of openness. They are able to, they are putting efforts to hear the concerns of their team members. They are in a position where they need to consider everyone's opinion and then make those crucial decisions. Leaders need to be decisive, but it does not mean that they would be ignoring everyone's uh, ideas or opinions. Everyone should feel that they are heard and their input was considered. That acknowledgement is very important. That will help with the overall transformation. That will help with the engagement. You cannot make everyone happy. If you try and do that, it will actually create a lot of confusion, uh, and the overall satisfaction would be short-lived. So as a leader, you need to see what decisions you are making and how do you acknowledge, how do you keep in mind the opinions that are uh, given by your team, and they should feel valued. Middle management is a very important team in the organization. They have a very complicated job. They have conflicting priorities. Uh, they have to make sure that they are supporting their team as well as they're looking at long-term strategies for the organization. And that's where the strategies and the day-to-day work meet. And that's very important how the middle management handles that. A lot of times, middle management does not have the right incentives to prioritize the human aspect, your team aspects, and they are totally focusing on company goals. It's very important that we look at the North Star, we look at how the company goals are fulfilled, but you need to consider the in the moment concerns as well. It is extremely important that the middle management is coached to address these themes, address these concerns, address how the human-centric aspect is taken care of. How do they bring in more EQ into them? If we do not do that, you would see siloed improvement. It won't be a systemic enhancement throughout the organization. You would look at individual heroism, would which would the results would be very short-lived and it will be very people dependent. You want to bring in systemic solutions. You don't want to bring in solutions those are dependent on individuals. And well-being of your team will be sacrificed over meeting specific deadlines. Passivity is not good when it is practiced by the leaders. Leaders cannot be passive in the transformation. They need to take active, engaged roles throughout the transformation. They cannot just sponsor and let it happen. It wouldn't work. They need to be the example. They need to participate in the change as much as they can. They cannot be disengaged. A detached leader, you might see success in the transformation, rarely, but you would definitely see that the intentionality is not there. Active leader drives a culture focus on risk, and it'll help bring in an expedited outcome. It will improve the overall transformation pace. What are the areas that we should monitor when we are coaching, when we are in transformation, which means if you see these symptoms, you should immediately resort to coaching those team members. Some of the things that you should look at uh, in team members where you are seeing lack of engagement. The team members are not motivated. They are reluctant to commit to a particular problem, or they are not able to commit to their actions. I do understand there are uncertainties, but then they are committing to their iteration goals. They are committing to the objectives that they are defining in PI. These are the things that you need to monitor. You need to see if you are seeing a negative perception as soon as a new change is brought in. They are not ready to learn. They are reluctant towards taking responsibilities. These are some of the things that you would want to see, and you want to bring in coaching as soon as you see that these symptoms are appearing, as it can hurt your transformation journey. If you are seeing in developers that they are not able to provide rough cut solutions, they are not able to help create estimations, uh, keeping in mind how uncertainties, assumptions are created, and then through time, the cone of uncertainty gets shortened and it gets reduced. These are the things which are very important. The development team needs to understand. They should not overemphasize on the architecture and software longevity. One of the engineering practices that is adopted into SAFe via the very common practice in XP is prioritize simple solutions for current issues over solving future problems. So your development team should be able to prioritize how they are bringing in uh, that change, how they are considering the coding practices. They should not have they should consider a customer-centric solution when they are designing. There should not be lack of empathy for users. They should have good listening skills. These are the things that you need to continuously monitor, and your Scrum Masters, your RTE, your enterprise coaches need to provide coaching if you see these symptoms. Uh, Another thing that you see in management is the leadership is displaying reluctance to actively engage or advocate for a particular project or working towards project. They are mostly working towards command and control approach, and it is command and control would create more problems in transformations because you will not be able to the team will not be able to see the actual value of the agile transformation, where you would see autonomy is very important. um, it is very important that the return on investment is considered because it's a business. We need to make sure that the business is able to create that value. But that does not mean that we have to be completely budget driven. We need to have, uh, we should be more result driven. We cannot fall into the iron triangle that we are running away from, which waterfall used to bring in. It is important that the management is able to bring in realistic deadlines. They are able to bring in realistic conditions in the contract negotiation. Some of the recommended practices for the journey, and remember, this is a journey, it's not a destination. Uh, some quick points. I'll cover a few more slides and then we'll jump right into a question and answer session. Lead with heart. As a leader, inspire the individuals, foster group discussions, bring in clear definition, clear link between vision and the strategies that you have. Bring in meaningful conversations. Um, Obviously, talking to individuals is important, but encourage team dialogues. It should not be one-way conversation. It should be dialogues between the teams. It should be everyone's opinion, everyone's ideas should be respected. Openness is very important. Value your workforce. Emphasize that your team has the autonomy, they have the purpose, they have the mastery in order to be happy. They are able to uh, you are able to motivate your team. Put efforts in understanding the link between people satisfaction and the economic results. Uh, Happier team members produces better results. They will be able to uh, deliver better value. Recognize your team members. Trust is extremely important. It is the fundamental value. You cannot have any you cannot have a leadership role if the team does not trust you. It is very important that transparency uh, transparency of the strategy, the team is able to uh, see the link between the strategy. It is extremely transparent to them. Leaders need to foster genuine interactions. The trust is generally built outside the meetings. It does not happen only inside the meeting. Foster genuine interactions between leaders and teams outside the meetings as well. Accountability is extremely important. Hold yourself responsible for the outcomes. Make sure that you are able to show that accountability. If something is not working out very well, you should be able to take that accountability, try and bring it, be transparent about it, bring in that improvement, and try and see how that can be improved in future. I'm going to go through these slides a little quickly now. Of most of these points I have covered in the previous slides. I do want to give some more time to the question and answer session. But if you have any specific question around it, then let me know. And the last slide that I want to cover, and I've talked about this many times, that's why I'm gonna skip over this, which is lead by example. It is extremely important that the attitude that you want your team to adapt, you are able to embody that attitude. Make sure that they are seeing that, practice that within your peers. So in the leadership team, you are exemplifying that kind of communication, that kind of engagement, and you would see that is going to help with the overall transformation. Um, Scaled Agile provides a complete guide towards the implementation roadmap. How do we actually move through the different stages of implementation? And Kumar, I think you were asking that question. How do we actually look at the transformation end to end? And this is one of the one of the biggest example where we provide guidance on how do we transform, starting from uh, training the change leaders into moving into training the executives and the management, working on the LACE team. Uh, this whole transformation, the implementation roadmap even advises on what certifications, what trainings, what kind of coaching, what kind of workshops are valuable at different points. With that, I'd like to give some time for the question and answers. Um, uh, some of the references that I've used to create the slide deck are presented here. Um, I'd like to open it for questions.
Yeah. Thanks, Humayun. So presentation. So yeah. So I was like, I think the most important is the alignment. Because there are, if you look at the bigger enterprise, so based on the different units, business units, but the alignment is one of the key. What are the approach on the agile transformation? So I mean, the agile coach is the we have to all support to make everyone onboarded on the agile transformation, right?
It is one of the most important roles. Yes, you need to have an agile coach. You need to have a transformation team. Agile coach is the person who has the knowledge of the values, principles, and practices. They have experience in uh, transformation. They have done implementations in multiple organizations. They are most experienced. They can see the current state and then they can visualize the future state. And they will be able to advise on the steps to go from the word go all the way to the North Star, and create adjustments throughout the whole transformation journey. Yes, Agile Coach is a very important role.
Humayun, I had a question typed in the meeting chat, but I don't know if you got a chance to look at it. But let me reiterate what I was going to ask.
Mhm.
Like Kumar was mentioning, and you answered, this whole process has to be transparent and everything has to be aligned basically. Um, so
I,
my question in relationship to that is the enterprise agile coach is supposed to coach the business owners and the top leadership, right? So like at the organization, so that they can be invested into this agile journey, because that's the core focus, right? So unless you get them, because they are facing a certain problem in the organization, that's why they are looking at us for solutions, right? So in order to draw their investment towards this journey, right? So like we have to coach, like as I say, safe level and enterprise coach has to coach them. And then what is the kind of a flow for this coaching? Because according to safe 6, like the scrum master is called agile coach. So what is the difference between this agile coach and then enterprise agile coach? How is the flow made transparent here? So my question is, um, for example, can an enterprise coach a team member directly? So if they don't
Good
trust the
question.
scrum.
Very good
Yeah.
question. So Scrum
Mhm.
Master is a team coach. So Scrum, the role of a Scrum Master is to help the team bring in the practices that helps out the agile team. So if we look at the big picture, and I'm using the essential configuration right now, you would see that the scrum master or the team coach is at the agile team level. So the responsibility of this uh, coach is to make sure that they are working with the product owner and their own team in coaching the best practices and helping the team deliver the value that is expected out of them. Your question about can an enterprise coach a team level here? Yes, they can. There could be coaching sessions. There could be things that, if we are looking at on an enterprise level, we have our RTE, we have our your STE, you have your SPC, which is your agile coach, which is working with the whole agile organization throughout your safe organization. So yes, they can also provide that. Your question about how does the coaching start and what are the steps that we look at, your implementation roadmap plays a very important role in providing that transparency to the team as well. It is again need to know basis. When you are at a certain stage of transformation, what decisions your leaders are taking, at what time it needs to be communicated. That communication plan needs to be covered as well. So there, when there is time to provide a certain information, once a certain decision is made, that information may have to be provided to the whole organization, and that is where you may want to bring that in all hands meeting or all team meetings where you would provide that information. So the transparency uh, place works on that side where you are providing the information to the whole organization. Certain decisions need to be taken, especially at the time of uh, when the journey is starting. Leadership would be working with the coaches, would be working with your implementation team, with your implementation partners, organizations like IBC, where we specialize in transforming organizations. Leadership would be working with the partners, with the coaches, in order to define a strategy, and then that strategy is communicated to the teams. Um, that is where the transparency come in. We should use transparency. The term transparency, it's not that a leader says a word and that should be transparent to the whole organization. The decisions, the strategies should be transparent. Uh, the result of a decision needs to be communicated. Obviously, why we moved on to that particular decision is also important, that the team understands why it was decided in a particular way. I hope I was able to answer your question,
Yeah.
Chandrasekhar.
So as a scrum master, typically this is the biggest challenge faced on a daily level, because if you have a cross functional teams, you have team members like top performers, and it's a high performing team, and if they are not happy at that level, So is it the issue with the scrum master, or it has to be traced and doing a back, reverse engineering and go up all the way to find the issue? That is the biggest challenge, because in large companies, typically, like when they end up in a top tech high performing team, they have a certain level of understanding. Or else even take for a top talent, he or she is hired for that role of a developer or a tester or whatever,
So
and then they
I,
are not aware of anything of these things. Again, it is the same issue. Like again, it becomes a top to bottom approach, versus what we are trying to provide an
so
alternate solution to.
allow me to answer this one. So
Yeah.
when we talk about different challenges, we how do you identify those challenges? So scaled agile identifies many ceremonies, many different ways of identifying challenges. One of the easiest way to identify challenges is through your iteration retrospective on the team level. If the team is facing problems, uh, they would identify that in iteration retrospective, or the scrum master would be able to engage with the team, or would be able to see that the team is having problems at certain levels. Now, how do we solve these things? So let's look at, there are many different approaches. There is no one way of doing it. But from hearing from you, the concerns that you have mentioned, the way I would approach it is, firstly, I would see, can the team resolve that problem on team level? Can they do it? Remember, we want to make sure that our teams are self-organized. They are self-managed and they are able to address a lot of concerns themselves. Scrum Master needs to facilitate those discussions. Are they able to resolve that? If they are not, if it is something which cannot be resolved on team level, then it should be escalated on program level, which is on the agile release train level. And then we see how can we systemically resolve that problem. Is that issue common with other agile teams? You may have 5 to 12 teams on a single agile release train. Is that something that is happening on other agile teams as well? If it is, are they able to address it? What maybe the ceremony of Scrum of Scrum, or Coach Think, as 6.0 suggests. Scrum Masters meet with RTE, they talk about these concerns and they look at how these were resolved. So there are many ceremonies that can help uh, remove these impediments or improve on these scenarios. And if it is something that cannot be addressed on the program or on the train level as well, how do we move it to further, how do we escalate it further? So these are the steps that you would take step by step. Obviously, your agile coach, the enterprise coach, plays a very important role in coaching the team coaches, in coaching your RTEs as well, in order to resolve these. Um, the Scrum Master course actually brings in, there is a complete topic over there, how to use powerful questions to address concerns. How do you work with the team on a common consensus? How do you bring that? How do you facilitate those meetings? So there is a specific training, there is a complete topic in Scrum Master training, which actually coaches team members to that. I hope I was able to address your question.
Oh, yes, I absolutely agree with your point. But sometimes, even after you use all the techniques, I attended Scrum Master like in the month of June, and I'm certified. And there are a lot of techniques and tools available. Like basically, Miss Atkins' book, about how Scrum Master can coach their teams. They gives a lot of information on how to do a conflict resolution and all those things. But when the members are angry, like you addressed it very well, actually I got a very beautiful insightful view from you, that yes, you have to first observe, is it happening to only my team, or is it happening to other teams as well? Is it a pattern? Is it the issue with the
And
leadership?
your enterprise coach plays a very important role in that. And I know Scrum Master's role is not to solve everything, but to make sure that the Scrum Master is facilitating and helping the team remove the impediments.
Yeah,
So
but
thank you
they
very
need
much
to
for
know
that
path of
question.
yeah, so they need to know the path to escalation. And
Yes, true,
so at what stage, like, each of these coaches will
true.
start getting engaged was
Yeah.
next question.
Thank you very much for your question. It was a very, and I'm sure it was very insightful for rest of the participants as well. I know we have crossed the time box by 7 minutes. Is there any other question that I can address quickly?
Yes,
Well,
there's a question on the chat for you. Can you quickly take a look, please?
um, will we be able to share the slides? We will have the recorded presentation. Vidya, we'll have this on our YouTube channel, right? The recording. So
Yes,
you will be able to see this recording.
So,
yeah,
do you
it will be
at what
uploaded
time?
after.
At what time can we find out on YouTube, please?
Um, uh, Give us a little time. I think Vidya, can you please guide me? How does that work out?
Humayun, can you hear
Probably a
me?
week or 2 weeks, we'll have this available on our YouTube channel.
Humayun, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Because this after New Year, we'll be uploading this one in the January first week of January.
First week of January. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions that I can address?
No question from my side. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for attending this session. It was well, everyone participated very well. Thank you very much. I wish you guys have a wonderful week. Uh, have a wonderful weekend and Merry Christmas. Uh, Seasonal greetings.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Humayun.
everyone.
Bye
Thank
from
you
Thank
too.
me.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye
you
Yeah.
bye.
all. Bye.
Bye for now.